Hey, what's up? I'm Najee Chambers. I'm from Big Gold Belt Media. Today, I have the very special pleasure of talking to award-winning director Traci Hayes, who's her new film On the Run is streaming right now exclusively on Tubi. Tracy, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited. We get to talk about all the fun things I enjoy talking about.
Yeah, indeed. I've been tracking this one down for a little while, so I'm absolutely thankful for your time today. I am
Yeah.
disappointed just a little bit though. You know what? My first line in my notes was going to proclaim you as the Fedora Queen. And look what you show up with.
I know. I changed it up today. I I am the fedora queen. I was like, you know what? I've done a lot of press and my one black fedora that I love, and I decided to wear it. I mean, it's still a hat, but yes,
Yeah.
I will not. I'm mostly in a hat. So yes,
I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is how we're going to show up today.
I
Nonetheless,
know.
though, I dig it. I think I said like a woman with a fedora or a blazer, like that's a statement. Like she's a
Yeah,
force to be reckoned with. She not playing no games and no
no.
nothing from that. I was like, yeah, I totally respect you.
That's awesome.
I,
Yeah.
we need to get you some type of brand endorsement with this,
I have a couple. It's funny you say that because there's a couple brands that make hats that I'm very very follow what they're up
Mhm.
to, and yes, I not a bad idea.
Yep,
So
yeah, they better get on now because the way you going, as Fat Joe would say, yesterday's price is not today's price. So the more and more fame that
right,
come, they're not going to be able to get you where what you may be at right now.
yeah,
But nonetheless, this was a very fun project. And before we actually dive into it, I do
yeah,
want to ask you, what is your relationship with Tubi? Your last three releases have
yeah,
exclusively with them, and as a connoisseur of independent filmmaking, that right there is a huge win because we live in a world where you can do a project, go dead broke, and don't have no clue when somebody may see it, somebody may get distribution, will it go to theaters, will
yeah,
it go streaming, does it just go in your backyard? We just don't know. But the fact that you have seemed to have found a home here with Tubi and
yeah.
what is that current relationship and partnership with them like?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind. As a filmmaker, yeah, the hope is you get to do what you love, make a living, and people get, share. I mean, it's all about sharing the art ultimately, and Tubi and Fox, they've opened the door to a lot of independent emerging filmmakers, and I was lucky enough to be in this renaissance as they were sort of figuring out their footing in the 3 or 4 years ago. I didn't even know frankly what Tubi was. I had never heard of it, and now more than ever, it's just they're in the news. They're talking. They're making big strides
Yeah.
in terms of what they want to do next. They're taking more risks, and I think it's like, yeah, caught in the middle of it, I guess, in a way. And I was, yeah, just able to meet some incredible people, both the development side of things over at Fox and at Tubi, and they really trust in what I bring and my voice, and they've definitely given me a lot of creative freedom because there's nothing more stifling as an artist to sort of have to be in the lines, and there's no way to push those boundaries and the whole. I think it's really exciting to be a part of that process in the last couple of years because they were making 80, 90 movies a year. That model is changing. They're very much as the quicksand with streaming services and how
Yeah.
much is shifting, but just to be a part of that last 3.5, 4 years of what's been going on. So yeah, it's been more to come. So
Yeah, that
yeah,
I love that. More to come. Yeah, listen, I've been doing the interviewing thing for a little while here, and I gotta tell you, there's nothing more deflating than when you get to speak with a director or a writer and you're interviewing about their project and you ask a little bit about their vision. They're like, well, I originally had this plan. I was like, oh, I see where this is going. And
yeah, yeah,
and eventually later you get a DM saying like, yeah, they changed a lot of that. Yeah, so originally what I wanted to do, I couldn't. So that's good to hear
yeah,
that they're embracing that. And I also think as really we're seeing so many more emerging women filmmakers out there that you all are being able to
Yeah.
tell the story the way you want to tell it, and these corporate males aren't coming in trying to tell their story over yours, which is just nonsense. But that's the end of my rant there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I know. Yes, I hear
That'd be
you.
like another 30 minutes here.
Yes, very much. Lots to unpack there. Yeah.
Yeah, so you absolutely have been doing a lot of press, and your
Yeah.
story is really special. And to me, the fact that like you found not just something that you're good at with filmmaking, but I feel like you found a sense of peace in doing so too, which means
Hmm.
that you wake up each and every day and you're very passionate about it. It's not just the check, it's not the notoriety, it's not any of that stuff. It's like you really, really are about this. And I really connected with that. And then upon
Hmm.
watching your movie, I see like the passion. I can feel it because even
Yeah.
with the characters here, like
Yeah.
I'm gonna get to some specifics in a minute. But if you, just in case anybody had not checked out any other interviews, I would love for you to just talk about just why filmmaking has just been something so therapeutic for you throughout this journey.
Hmm. Yeah, that's I love that that's something that comes through in the work because ultimately, what you're creating, your art, it's all, you hope that that translates and resonates on the screen, and I'm glad that you saw the care because
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm on my whiteboard next to me, I have do something today that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, yes, I'm lucky that I'm passionate. I love what I get to do. Sometimes it isn't always, exciting. And sometimes it is more stressful and worrisome and, what to focus on next. And so I think it's just, yeah, it's been quite a journey, but I think it's like every day just sort of you have to choose how you want to go through that day, and I really try to be a glass half full kind of person because I
Yeah.
mean life's too short, and I do think how we what we put out in the world, and how we carry ourselves does impact the opportunities, the
Yeah.
relationships, and I've and it's been a process, like just trying to understand that. And as I've gotten older and the more I've been able to work and realize how much you as a person and like what you're bringing to it is ultimately the thing that people are hiring you for, which is kind of crazy because you think about it and you're just thinking, you give every filmmaker the same script and they're going to make a totally different movie. And that's what's so
Yeah.
exciting as a filmmaker, right? So I guess to get back to your question, which to be honest, I've gone on a tangent and I forgot the last
That's what we
half of
do
your
here.
question. Oh, it was like you had so many great nuggets in there, and I don't really remember the last bit, but yeah, the passion is definitely you know true, and every day it's something that I feel privileged to get to do. So
We're thankful
yeah,
to have you, and I think really, as I said, like there's so many just new and emerging women filmmakers that like we're seeing
yeah,
stories be told in ways that we haven't been seeing. And I love that
yeah.
analogy and actually that thought process of like, yeah, you get a script and the fact that everybody can tell it different, but there has been a consensus of everybody trying to do things the same way. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
then because of the norm, and when you see who's essentially up top, people feels like, well, if I practice what that person does, I could also be successful. And I also think that women come through as trailblazers saying like, no, I'm going to do it my way, and that's just what it's going to be unapologetically. So
yeah,
um, but to my point here, like I take a look at Taylor's performance here as the character Paige, and of course you remember Taylor, so young Taylor in Inception, and I just thought
yeah,
to myself like, where has she been? And then to realize that she comes back now, and it's almost as if like she's just been
yeah,
rejuvenated. A performance here that absolutely needs to be talked about. But then it goes back to
yeah.
you because I was just like, I see your passion and how you're talking about filmmaking and stories, and then it just seems like you just see her just back alive and wanting to do this. And I can't
Mm,
recall how big her hiatus is, but I know I haven't seen her in a project in a
yeah,
while. So can you talk about a little bit with connecting with your cast, definitely with Taylor, and how you all were able
yeah.
to share a vision with this film?
Yeah, that's interesting because she is. she was this kind of rising child star and was in a lot of films growing up with her brother. Actually, they did a lot of movies,
Yeah.
and we haven't really dived to her, and I haven't like unpacked the whole journey necessarily and all the nuances. But from the conversations we have had, I do think she's just sort of came to a place where she goes, she's no longer a kid in the sense anymore, and she's becoming this leading lady, and just to be able to see that unfold in this kind of way. I mean, I watched her tape, and was just like, that's Paige. Like, she just understood. And it's interesting because she's actually the oldest in her family. So Taylor and Sophia are actually playing opposites. Like,
Yeah.
actually, so because Sophia in the film is older, but she's actually younger. And it just goes to show, I mean, obviously, ultimately, they are acting, but Taylor really, I mean, she just deeply, deeply cares about her work and how she carries herself. And she is operating not like as a young, in her 20s. She's very wise. Like, it's just really fascinating watching a young person like that have such like pause for deep thinking. And I think that really helped her get into Paige's character. And she's talked to me about her sister had some similarities with the punk scene, so to speak. So she was able to pull. I mean, I think we all pull from our own lives,
Yeah.
frankly. But yeah, and so obviously the whole cast. I mean, I think just having such specific, with Sophia, who plays Kayla,
Yeah.
she was just, she had 3 days to. She was cast so last minute,
Wow.
and she came in and just like it was like boot camp. They all just really, that's the hope. Like, you don't know, like they never met before the movie, and
Yeah.
they're playing sisters, and so I was just very fortunate that like everybody, the whole cast, like Clyde, who plays their father, and you have Mark Williams, who plays the villain in the film. I think they just all committed
Yeah.
150%, and I just was very fortunate to get to show up every day and listen to their ideas. And they came with questions, and I appreciated that because they were really digging into the script and wanting to get to know these characters in a really personal way. So it made my job, very enjoyable and frankly a lot easier. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
One character you forgot to mention is the music because it makes a very
yeah,
early presence in this film, and it definitely sets tones. It carries emotions. I believe there's even some storytelling. I would say even within the music, really to kind of establish certain characters' mindsets at the time. Talk about the collaborative
yeah.
effort here, and why was that such an important factor for this film?
Yeah, I love the music was composed by Ben Collar, and he's actually based out of London. And this is the third film he's composed for me, and it was interesting because of how tight we had, like, timeline from pre-production to filming to post was less than 6 months. Like, I think we had 4 months from picture wrap to the film coming out. So Ben and we started talking at script stage about the sort of tone. And the first thing I do when I sit down and start to think about a world that I want to build with any given project is made a playlist on Spotify. So I made a playlist on Spotify and shared it with Ben. And he started making, I call them like palette samples, where he would just, and it wasn't composed for any particular scene. It was just an emotional feeling. So he would send that to me, and I would go, oh, I like, we talk about the vast landscape and the dustiness and the sort of uncertainty and how to make this sort of raw, vulnerable emotion that I knew, from the script that I wanted to come through in the music. But it was I didn't want it to get in the way. There's so much, this is such a funny little tangent, but there's so much wind in the movie. Like, and I didn't realize that sometimes the irony is we took out the wind and then added it. You're just like, we don't want that wind. We want better wind. That was like so many conversations about wind in this movie. Quite funny. But wind has a certain frequency that actually can disrupt the score. So Ben would actually put wind in the music, and then I wouldn't, and then so like it was like this marriage of like lowering the actual wind in the mix and letting the score accentuate. It was, I had never really worked like that when it,
Yeah.
because there was just so never been a movie with so much wind.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That is interesting.
yeah, so weird.
All right,
So yeah.
so we're on the run now. This you have an action thriller, you have a dark comedy, and you also have a psychological thriller. And clearly, you're still working. What is coming next, and what genre is it going to be in?
That I don't actually know the answer to that question. I have 6 projects I'm in development on, and they're every one of them is a different genre. So
Okay, now.
I think that there's, I mean, something really as a filmmaker to be able to tell stories in different spaces, and that I'm not just gonna make, campy
Yeah,
horror comedies or only make romantic comedies. And I think that I would think all artists, whether they're behind the camera in front of, like, there's just this desire to show people what you're capable of and what you enjoy, because when you sit down and watch a movie, you sometimes you're in the mood for something darker, sometimes for something lighter. I mean, there are things I am resolute in, like things I know I don't want
yeah,
to do, but there is this kind of incredible space that I get to play in. As I like genre blending, more grounded, like drama is my first love. I grew up, like, that was, I watched a lot of dramatic, films and television, and I think that there's uh that sort of innately nostalgic that's just sort of like in
yeah,
me now. And
yeah.
so the question about what's next, it will be a feature, and I am also working with a book that I just optioned, which was a cool. I've never done that before. It's a YA dark sort of haunting coming of age story that's written by a New York Times bestselling author. So getting to play in a couple spaces has been a lot of fun. So yeah, there's a lot of things brewing. There's a lot of irons in the fire, and I'm sure many artists can relate to the not knowing and the out of control that sometimes we spiral and
Yeah.
just go, what do I focus on
Yeah,
next?
yeah.
So yeah.
It's the right type of like OCD here. Like we're as
Yeah.
enthusiasts and folks who want this entertainment, like, yeah, please spaz out, go all over the place. We'll take it. Please don't
Yes.
be a one-trick pony. Yeah, give us
No,
all the
no.
thoughts and
All of
ideas.
it. Yes, multiple things. So
So,
yeah.
so for my final question with On the Run, which is streaming now on exclusively on Tubi, I want to kind of ask you about the KAYLA and PAIGE journey and what's the message you want the fans to take from out of it, because as the synopsis states and as people will see, they are very different. And that's no surprise because a lot of people and their siblings are typically different. And if it ain't an age factor or just a generational thing, or just people just like
Yeah.
different things, you know. But
Yeah.
we see a measure of camaraderie come together when faced with the utmost adversity. And the adversity comes by, like, obviously a physical threat, but also there's a mental threat as well too. Because one thing I know
Yeah.
consistently, and some people may or may not relate, that when parents lie to kids, they typically think it's for protecting them, and it typically ends up being detrimental. And it's something that I hope we do better with honesty with the next generation.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
is sort of just that message you want folks to take from their journey, and their entire
Yeah.
character arcs, their development that goes on with one another?
Yeah. KAYLA and Paige, they represent, you know, women, friends, sisters, I mean, I have 2 younger sisters. Like, there's bits and pieces of, things I see in so many people that I know in my own life. And I think that, my hope is that with these 2 young women, that I think there's just this sense of, betrayal, and there's so many emotions going on throughout this film. But I think what was so fascinating in the way that it all came together, and not just on the page, but with the performances, was just that they recognized that, like, despite all these problems, and sometimes it just takes one moment to like really deteriorate a relationship. They were able to rebuild it. And I think
Good point.
whether it's family or quarrel with friends, I think there are people that just want to hold on to that, like, oh, I can never forgive, and forgive and forget, but I can never do that. And I think that there's something really powerful about having these people who never, Paige is running away. She didn't want to see her family again. She was ready to move on. She had no interest in being a part of that family. And I think what was interesting, I won't give spoilers away, but what was interesting, there was obviously some subtext going on there with her feelings. But at the end of the day, the thing that I love that KAYLA says is that, thanks for giving me a sister. And like, I remember, like, I still kind of get emotional about that because it's such a, like, whether it's chosen family or an adoptive person or, actual blood family, I think there's something really beautiful about going through something so traumatic.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm doing that. Going through something so traumatic.
Zoom agrees.
I guess. Yeah, just to see, that there is a silver lining, and like, even though you think that like there's no hope or that it's not, I can't undo that one conversation or that, those issues. I think they, that you can put it aside and start over. And they kind of, we end the film with their next journey, or the beginning of their next journey together, united, as opposed to the division that you see, at the beginning. So I think that there is a happy ending for people if they give themselves a chance. So
that's entirely beautiful, and I really, really appreciate that answer. The fan in me is kind of like, yeah, I mean, listen, these two young ladies, they've been through enough. But the other fan in me is like, but also, what if you did kind of catch us up with what's happening in life now? Like, is there more to be told? Have you thought about expanding this story at all any further?
It's funny, you're the first person that's actually asked that, actually. But it's not, there is more of a story that, I've talked to the writers about this. I definitely talked to Taylor and Sophia about this. And yeah, we joke around about it, but if Tubi asked, like, we would definitely, I think there's definitely something there. So we'll see. I don't know. It also comes down to how, just the film doing well, and the audience connecting, and maybe there's an appetite for more. We'll see. I don't know. But I love those characters in the world that we created. So I would be curious to see where that went to.
Me too. Well,
Yeah.
tell you what here, Traci, I really, really appreciate the time today.
Yeah.
On the one that's streaming right now on Tubi, you will have a seat here any and every time. I know you're going to continue to work, and I will be continuing to watch, and I'd love to keep up with you and talk more films, television, entertainment, all that good stuff with you. But I really, really do appreciate this project and my introduction into your work. So now I am a fan, and I can't wait to see what you cook up next.
Oh, thank you. There's more to come. We're ready. I'm ready.
Music to my ears. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.